Hello, welcome back to Sharks Happen. My name is Hal. I'm your host, going over shark attacks from the 1900s till present, mostly large sharks. And we'll get started with our Orca special. We're going to go over the 4 fatal attacks by orcas on humans on record. And 3 of the 4 are in the United States in theme parks, and the 4th is overseas at Laurel Park, another theme park. So all 4 happen in theme parks. 3 of the 4 are going to involve Tilikum, probably the most famous killer whale there is. And the 4th is Keto, and he is the one at Laurel Park. So we're going to start out with Tilikum. 1983, he is taken from Iceland waters at the age of 2. He is then held in a cement tank, a cement holding tank for the next year when he gets to 22.5 feet long and over 5 tons. He's right around 5 tons, 11,000 pounds. He is a big whale. And then he's sent to Sealand, which is in San Diego. Sealand is not affiliated with SeaWorld that I can tell. It is a separate entity. So Sealand ends up with Tilikum in 1984. And then in 1991, there is a 21-year-old marine biologist named Keltie Byrne. She is walking along Tilikum's tank. And there's 3 killer whales in the tank, Tilikum and 2 females. And these 2 females had pretty much abused Tilikum ever since he showed up. They would rake him with their teeth down the side of his body, making him bleed. They would mistreat him. So the 3 of these whales are in the tank, and she's walking along it, and Keltie slips in, falls into the tank. Immediately, all 3 whales go and grab her and start playing with her, not letting her surface. And they say it was a 10-minute ordeal of her fighting to the surface, which she managed to do twice. She managed to make her way to the surface 2 different times and get some air before the 3rd time when they held her under and they would not let her up. And this was not just Tilikum, this was all 3 whales that were involved in this attack. And prior or after she had drowned, it took them 2 hours to be able to get Tilikum's to let go Tilikum and the females to let the body be retrieved. They held on to it for 2 hours after she drowned. So, you know, accident, slip and fall into a 55-degree tank and you're drowned by these whales purposely. You know, they don't attack humans like that out in the open seas that I know of. I haven't come across those attacks. I've seen that there was one possible attack, but never confirmed. Just the guy's surfboard was bitten, and they said that the bite to the mark to the board seemed different than a shark. And when he fell backwards, so it sounds like he was actually surfing when this thing grabbed his board, he fell backwards by the hip from the whale, I would think it is. And when he fell back, he said it was black and it was smooth. So that's not the surface of a shark. So there might have actually been an attack in the wild on a surfboard by an orca, but it was unconfirmed, and that's the only thing I know of. So other than being in captivity, this is what causes this kind of thing to happen. Keltie Byrne, she is 21 years old when she slips and falls in the tank. She is drowned by the whales, but you know, this is not as brutal as the next 2 that are coming up. So that's our story at Keltie Byrne. Okay, now we head over to Laurel Park, which is over in Spain. The date on this is December 24th, 2009. Alexis Martinez, he is 29 years old, and he has been a trainer of orcas at Laurel Park for 3 years. A few weeks before the attack, he was telling his girlfriend that he is stressed, that getting ready for this Christmas show he's getting ready for, the whales are acting disruptive, disobedient, and aggressive towards him, and it's starting to stress him out. And a few weeks later, the December 24th shows up. It's a morning show. Alexis, he gets in the water, and the first stunt he's going to do is stand on his nostrum, stand on a 6,600-pound Keto's nostrum on his nose as he lifts him up out of the water, and he balances himself on top of the whale's nose. So they're both, the whale half out of the water and the man standing on top of him. Well, when they got up above the water, Keto purposely turned his body, tilted it to the side, and made him fall off. So Alexis didn't want to be deterred. He's going to do it again. He gets up on the nostrum again, and he's pushed up out of the water, and again Keto turns sideways and he falls into the water. As a result, Keto is not given his couple handfuls of fish as a reward, and he goes off to do another trick with another trainer. This other trick he does after this is with a different trainer. He does what he's supposed to do. He gets his treat, he gets his fish, and now he's coming back to do what they call a haul down stage haul up. So that's where Alexis is going to stand on his nose, be pushed down into the water, down deep, and brought back up right by the stage where he's going to step off or jump off onto the stage. So that's the haul down stage haul up that they're going to do. And he gets on his nose and he notices immediately, I guess it's a 36-meter deep tank. So it's a pretty deep tank. And he is taken a lot further down than he's supposed to be, and he bails. Alexis swims to the surface, and now Alexis is at the surface at the center of the pool, and there's another trainer that's on the stage, and he's the only one that noticed any strange behavior of Keto's before they attacked. He realized that Keto had positioned himself when he surfaced right in between Alexis and the stage. So now Alexis needs to get to the stage, and it sounds like he swam over to try to get to the stage, and that's when Keto charged him and hit him in the chest so hard it caved in his chest. So it collapsed his chest, collapsing both lungs at the same time, major damage to all his vital organs with tears in his liver, bite marks on his body. He ends up being played with like a toy after that initial charge, and it takes them quite a while to be able to get the body again away from Keto. And this is the only attack that I know that Keto's involved in. And you know, there's people that say that worked at these SeaWorlds that injuries happen that aren't reported. Maybe that happened there. Maybe it happened with Keto before. I'm not positive. I haven't looked into his other attacks. There's plenty of other attacks. These are just the fatalities. And this was a pretty gruesome one. He was supposed to bring him up to the surface on his nostrum. Well, he did, but only it was after he had drowned him and you know, crushed his body basically. And there was nothing they could do for Alexis Martinez. He was bleeding from the nose and the mouth when they finally got him to the side of the out of the tank, and they tried to resuscitate him, but there was nothing they could do. There was too much internal damage that was done to him. And that's the second attack, this one by Keto over at Laurel Park in Spain. Okay, now we're going to cover the final normal attack. That's not going to be our ending segment. By one of these killer whales that turned into a fatality, and this one is probably the most famous. It's on Dawn Brancheau. She was a trainer of the killer whales for some time, but she came there, she had been at Laurel Park, and when she started there she wasn't training the whales, and then she started training the whales. She became one of the best known trainers that SeaWorld had. They had her up on their billboards to be able to promote the Shamu shows. So Dawn was very close to Tilikum, and they said Tilikum was very close to Dawn. And in February of 2010, Dawn is doing a show. I'm going to post a video. It's a CBS video, but it's kind of, I believe it shows the very last show that she had done and the interactions, some of the interactions between Dawn and Tilikum in that show. I'll post that link in the bottom in the description. But to me, what I'm seeing is that Tilikum's not really obeying what she wants done. I think that she tells it to go swimming off first, because I see her arm go up and out like that, and Tilikum just turns on his side. Weird thing for him to do. Actually, he just sits there, and then after that he turns on his side when she gives him another order, and then he puts his fin out, his pectoral fin, like he wants attention to his pectoral fin. She starts rubbing it. And you know, but what I'm seeing is a whale that doesn't want to do what it's being told to do, and a trainer that's trying to calm him while getting him to be, you know, obedient and help out with the show. So then later on they show that he does a couple things. He gets his fish treats when he's doing the things he's supposed to do. And somewhere at the end of that, there's a Dine with Shamu show going on in the bottom. In the bottom, you can pay and you can have dinner and you can watch the show through the glass underwater. So it's pretty deep where they're at, and at the right time, Dawn or another trainer will take the whales down, and they'll be able to see the whales down in the window as they go down there. And they watched the whole show with Dawn and the whale. And Tilikum was fine. Dawn is done, and she gets up out of the water, and I'm not sure if this is shown on the video. It looks like she's about to lay down, but what ends up happening is she lays down at the end of all this, and it sounds like the show's over. People are clearing out. People are probably still dining down, and they definitely are still dining down on the bottom, because that's where a lot of these witnesses we're going to discuss are at. And Dawn is laying down now. She lays down with her head right at Tilikum's head, so his nose is almost at her nose. And what they said was that her hair floated out into the water right into his mouth, and that he bit down on the hair. And she was trying to get her hair out. And one of the gentlemen that's a spotter had seen Tilikum grab her hair, and that was enough for him. He turned and he was hitting the alarm. When he turned back, Dawn was nowhere to be seen. So that quick, Tilikum grabbed her and pulled her in. They say by the shoulder, but it grabbed her by the hair first. So they're saying that it grabbed her by the shoulder after that and dragged her into the water. Now, what these witnesses ended up watching was just horrific, to say the least. You're having your dinner there watching a Shamu show, and all of a sudden, one witness says that Tilikum came down with Dawn in the mouth, just shaking her violently, shaking her very violently. Another witness said that he witnessed the whale make a run at her and impact her so hard in the chest, and then it went off and it turned and came back at her mouth open. Another group of people said that they had seen the same type of attack there, and that it was dragging her around by the arm at times and dragging her around by her torso at times as the attack is going on. This is a prolonged violent attack. Right away, they're trying, trainers are slapping the water, doing signs. They have nets. They try to calm them down and get the person away, or get whatever it has away from it. And none of that's working. Tilikum is not paying attention to any of it. And one of the people said that they knew that she would be in trouble because Tilikum is a possessive whale, and when it gets something in its mouth, it doesn't want to release it. And this is what happened in this attack. So Dawn is probably killed off pretty early in this, and he goes ahead and still brutalizes the body. She ends up scalped, where part of her hair and her skin is laying on the bottom of the pool. When they finally get her out of the water, they got Tilikum into, they got the nets and they forced Tilikum into the smaller tank. I think it's the medic tank. And they had him in there, and they finally got him calmed down enough to release the body. But one of the workers said when they took that body away from him, he was pissed. And at one point, it was so bad that Tilikum was swimming down trying to get the scalp and keep them from getting the scalp. And I believe this is after they took the body away from him. So very upset whale. That's what happens. You put something in captivity, should never be there. I used to love the Shamu shows. I kind of changed my opinion on them after Blackfish, of course. But you know, you shouldn't be pulling these. They're kind of humanistic in their intelligence and in their family unit structure that I've seen in books. And I mean, I don't think you should tear that up. I would think watching the movie Orca would change anybody's mind about capturing these whales like that. Sure did me. Orca was sad. That was a sad movie, and it was a sad portrayal of a whale being captured out in the wild for commercial purposes, for a business like that. But Dawn, it took them, even though they got Tilikum into that side tank, it took them another 45 minutes, I believe it is, to get her body from him. So that was it for Dawn Brancheau. She had worked with Tilikum for years, but he turned against her, did one of those animalistic attacks. Definitely, you know, all these are territorial, and all these are things that would not happen out in the wild. They happen because these enormous, awesome mammals are where they shouldn't be. So I don't think that they should be in tanks, but that's neither here nor there. That's our story of Dawn Brancheau, 40 years old. Okay, real quick before we get into what were you thinking, I wanted to let you know that also one of the injuries that happened to Dawn Brancheau is her arm was actually ripped out of socket out of her body. So it was basically torn off of her body, probably by a shaking motion, I would think, the way that it was taken off. I'm going to post two videos. One of them is going to be the CBS video that shows, I believe it's her last show with Tilikum, and it's going to show their interactions just prior to that attack. The other video I'm going to post is a YouTube video, and that thing goes over a couple of famous attacks, man being grabbed by the foot, a little girl that's bullied around the water when she's involved in a show from the stands, and they end up trying to pull her out of the water, and the whale has her leg clamped in its teeth. So I'll post that video too. So you'll have 2 videos that you can go ahead and look at. One will be the one that I watched of Don Brancheau's interaction with the whale that last time, and then the other one is fascinating too, because it gets into a couple of attacks that are famous, a little bit old, but I mean, if you go and you look at Orca attacks, they're all pretty much the same MO, and the grabbing of the foot of Heather Boswell reminds me of an Orca attack, how they grab the foot. You just see their head go down there, and all of a sudden they got the foot and they're dragging you. That's what that first attack on Heather Boswell would remind me on the first video I saw. I still think there's a different video out there of that attack. Okay, now for what we're thinking, we are going to head over to SeaWorld Orlando, same place that Don Brancheau in 2010 was attacked and killed. This was prior to that. This was after his first attack. He was involved in that first attack on Keltie Byrne, and 2 other whales were helping him with that one. So that was in 1991. After 1991 and that attack, shortly after that, they shipped Tilikum over to SeaWorld, and 18 months after the attack on Keltie Byrne, Sea Land went out of business. They were no longer. So then it leaves SeaWorld, and this is 1999, 8 years after Tilikum was involved in that other death. Now we have a gentleman, Daniel Dukes, and he is a homeless drifter, and he is at the park, and he decides what he wants to do is wait until the park closes. Everybody clears out of there, and he either strips down to his underwear or strips naked and jumps into Tilikum's tank. First point on this is they keep that tank at 55 degrees. That's way too cold to be in. I mean, you're in ice water when you're out there. Not a good thing to do, to jump into that water. I know it looks all nice, but that's freezing water. So even if he wasn't bludgeoned to death, he would have drowned probably out of hypothermia, everything locking up, and you can't get out of the water. So he made a mistake by getting in the water in the first place. I at one point had read that he was intoxicated. I didn't really look for anything on that, because I don't think it really matters in this story. All that matters is this guy jumped into the tank with Tilikum, and Tilikum, either before he died or after he died, played with him, bit him up a little bit. He ended up biting his genitals off, so he removed his genitals. He had bite marks to his body. His face was so disoriented and out of shape that they had to have a closed casket for his funeral. It was a horrendous attack, and just like most of these are, they also have now, they've had whales attacking whales, whales killing whales. That's happened in these theme parks that have the killer whale shows. So these killer whales are not at all acting as they should if they were halfway okay with being in a tank. To their credit, SeaWorld, 6 years after Brancheau's death, so you're talking 2016, they finally claim that they're going to finish the shows. They're done with the shows, and after the current batch of whales that they have, they're done with them altogether. They're branching out now, and they're doing some whale conservatory, some conservation, working with helping whales thrive out in the wild, and they're also working with sharks now, with the tagging of the sharks. So they're changing their focus, and they're doing like anything does. They're moving with the times, and they're evolving is what they're doing. We can't just hold people to what they did back when they did it, when it was normal back then. I think this is ludicrous going on right now with what everybody's doing with everybody's past. I don't care what political bent you are or anything. I don't think anybody should be punished for words ever, unless they did do damage as far as yelling fire and causing deaths in a stampede or something like that. People need to get a little stronger and go back to sticks and stones, because what's going on now is just turning the whole world upside down, in my opinion. So that's our story of poor Daniel Dukes that decided to go for a swim with Tilikum, and he was bludgeoned pretty good. He had so many injuries they couldn't determine what the cause of death was. That's how bad that his body was brutalized, which is weird, because I had read one story that said, oh, he just drowned and it was because of the cold and he wasn't bitten at all or nothing happened to him. Not from what I'm seeing. I'm seeing that he was pretty much brutalized like Don Brancheau was, and like it was a pretty brutal attack. I think you'll agree, on Alexis Martinez, and a very sad one on the young lady, the marine biologist who was drowned by the 3 whales. Watching that video, the videos of the attacks on the people, on trainers, and even on that girl especially that's just joining the show, and all of a sudden the whale is attacking her. Hard stuff to watch, and you know, it's a good thing that they're moving away from that, because you know, there's no place for that anymore. Zoos, same thing. I think zoos have had their time, and now they should just be animal sanctuaries, basically, where all they have in there is animals that aren't going to make it in the wild, that have quite a life left, but they're injured in some way where they can't protect themselves. Fine, have some kind of a zoo, have some kind of a retreat for these animals, but to have these cages in these small areas, and penguins, like in Michigan in the Detroit Zoo, they just swim around in a circle all the time. They can't be happy with that. I bet they'd rather be popping their head up, seeing if there's a polar bear above them, or looking down, seeing if there's a Greenland shark, a killer whale, or even a salmon shark coming out for them. I think they'd like that life better than swimming in circles in some stupid. But I love those penguins. That's why I bring up the penguins. That's my favorite exhibit, because they're so funny when they're walking. Kind of when they're swimming too, the black and orange ones. King penguins, I think they are, but I'm not sure. So, just to finish the show, I'm not an expert in these killer whales. I'm not an expert in their attacks. All this stuff is new to me. It's just fascinating, and I wanted to share that with you. So that'll be our show for today. I'll be back in 4 or 5 days with another show right here from the Keys. I'm going to try to add something special in there for everybody, but we'll see what happens. But I will be back with another normal shark attack show. I wanted to go over the fatalities with the killer whales. I'll leave it up to all of you to go over all the different attacks. But they are fascinating, and they're just sad all the way around, because I feel bad for the trainers, because they're not doing anything that they shouldn't be doing, as they're doing their job. And I feel horrible for the whales that don't want to be there, and they probably feel terrible after they do it, is what I think. So that's our show for today. If you go into that water, you are much more afraid of those sharks than they are of you.